we will get started right now. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining this office hours. We're very, very excited to start these monthly sessions with people from the board of Naturally San Diego and other folks in the industry who will come on to share their wisdom and experience with you all. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to some of our sponsors. Some of those sponsors you can see here include Dr. Bronner's, Pitaya Plus, Chosen Foods, Suja. Moving on to our bronze level, we have Bubs, Koya, Bitch and Sauce, and of course, all our wonderful community sponsors. We could not do any of this without you. Thank you so much for being a part of our community. And of course, as always, please reach out to myself or any other members of Naturally San Diego on the board if you're interested in becoming a sponsor. All right, so with that, let's get into it, Amy. Hello.
Hello.
Really nice to have you here. So for those of you who don't know, Amy is not only a member of the Naturally San Diego board, she is the Chief Marketing Officer of Organifi, an incredible company with just a story of explosive growth over the last 5 years that's really taken the industry in D2C by storm with their phenomenal growth. They've been, I believe, rated one of the fastest growing companies in San Diego, one of the best places to work in San Diego consistently. And Amy herself has been with the company when it had about 8 to 10 people. And today it has over 60 employees, and Amy herself leads a team of over 30 marketers. So I think that we'll have a lot to discuss here, a lot to get into. But before we get into the questions, I'd love Amy to just give us a quick intro. Tell us, how you got here and a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Ari. First, I'm super excited to be on here. I've been a part of Naturally since, I guess, the inception. What was it? The start of the ideation.
The very early days.
So been so grateful for this community already and just the support that I've received as we're looking at expanding in retail side of the business. But Organifi, I've been with them about 4.5 years. The company's been around close to 6 and about 97% like e-commerce and direct to consumer and expanding into retail now. As Ari mentioned, about 8 to 10 people when I joined. I actually came in under our now CEO, Jamel Bedahar, who was one of the co-founders with Drew Canoli. And he brought me in under his wing, and I actually was doing conversion rate optimization when I first started. So really small, nimble team, and I was running split tests, A/B tests with our web designer. And then I eventually took over our paid media management. So working with a lot of agencies on Facebook and YouTube media buying. And my intention since day one and why Jamel brought me in was to eventually kind of take on and lead the whole marketing for Organifi. So it kind of went from being a really small team with some contractors to building out multiple teams. And I currently have like 4 different departments underneath me, which I'm happy to dive more into. And as Ari said, went from a couple people to about 30 on the marketing creative team. We do have creative in-house, so that's something to note as well. So we have a lot of video copywriters. And then a couple notes, I guess, on Organifi, which I was sharing with Ari before we hopped on the call. We actually started as fitlife.tv. So this is a good backstory to understand how we got to where we are today. Drew Canoli, our founder, was really big into like juicing and health transformations. He was going through his own transformation, and he started the fitlife.tv blog, started FitLife TV YouTube channel, which today has about 500,000 subscribers, and Juicing Vegetables Facebook page with about 2 million likes. So these are back in the days, let's say, I think it was about 8 years ago or so when Facebook organic was still really big. So creating a lot of content, doing different like digital products and coaching programs, transformation programs. And what they found was that a lot of these people that were juicing daily actually needed something that was a little bit quicker and on the go, so they didn't have to drag their juicer around. So that was the inception of our core product, Organifi Green Juice, which was a superfood blend. And Drew kind of always played around with adaptogens and superfoods, I think a little before it became like the hot thing to do, like it is right now. So we're a little early in the market too with like superfoods and adaptogenic herbs. But launched Organifi Green Juice, we had a community, so that's pretty key. We definitely had a leg up with the community we had established, email list. And then we partnered with some really large affiliates through the ClickBank platform, doubled overnight with just Organifi Green Juice. And then we kind of took that customer data to Facebook and YouTube and were able to run like a lot of lookalike campaigns and grew with Organifi Green Juice, and then ultimately created some more products. So happy to talk through more of that, whatever direction we want to take this, but there are a lot of challenges along the way. I learned a lot, still learning a lot, but happy to share, you know, what's worked, what's been tough, and try to support as many people as I can on getting their D2C business going or scaling it.
Wow. I mean, to be on a rocket ship like that just sounds like an incredible ride. And, you know, you must have learned so much and seen so much, you know, from strategies that work to strategies that don't. You know, if you could, I'd love to know if you could take us back to the early days of Organifi, you know, when you were thinking about how to structure your marketing team. You know, what were some of the first, you know, hires you made or departments you realized that you needed to develop as you went about, you know, building the organization internally?
That's a great question. I mean, one unique challenge that we faced was that we actually did have FitLife TV as a company when Organifi was created. So that was an interesting transition of, we kind of had to transfer, I guess, some team members from FitLife over to Organifi. So there was an interesting kind of branding exercise as well there of how do we structure these two teams kind of into one team. I would say as far as key team members that actually existed before I was even here, we have a really solid like copywriter who's been with us since day one, because we do. Drew, our founder, is amazing on camera. Obviously now we know the power of video. So since the very early days, video is really important for us. So having Drew as the founder and the face, really strong copy and creative team, that was pretty critical for us. I know that for some brands, they may not have that strong like face or founder, so it might be a little irrelevant, but I definitely think from like a direct response perspective, strong copy is really important. Over time, that kind of evolved, and I did hire a creative director a little over a year ago. So we went from just a copywriter to building out an actual creative department. So it's been a lot of kind of restructuring there. We've always stuck with, I do believe largely in working with agencies on the media buying side. The expertise that you receive from working with them. We've also had some really great media buyers. So we try to keep that for now, outsourced, looked at building a team in-house. But having a key like web developer designer, I think in the early days when you're kind of more of a startup, you have people that can wear a lot of different hats. So I think somebody who's really solid in web development, web design, and then building that team out from there was really important. And then one thing that has made us really successful is diversifying channels. So not ever relying just on one channel. So we would tend to add channels as we go, which would be like podcast sponsorships. We would start testing it, and once we get to a certain level, then focus on like hiring and like scaling it out. We really allowed our team members to step in and see where they're like determine where there's opportunities and then rise into those. So I think a few key team members to manage different channels, like affiliates, was really big for us out of the gate. So we had an affiliate manager, which was really important. And then structuring teams over time, I was always thinking a bit for the long term. I'm definitely visionary, so I'm thinking short term, long term. And I talked to a couple other CMOs and decided to keep creative as its own function, because I knew we would eventually go into retail and wanted them to support the whole org. And then on like the e-comm and marketing side, we're still kind of working through some org structure here, but we do have a bit more acquisition growth focus, and then we have retention focus within e-commerce marketing. And then we also have a little bit more of a brand marketing arm, yet they're working very closely and collaboratively.
I see.
That answers your question exactly.
It actually, yeah, I was just thinking I wish we had a visual that we could look at, you know, that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
And maybe as a follow-up, we could share, we could share something like that. Yeah. So we have our first question here, and that is, is content still king? And how do you use blogs or written content for digital marketing? Anything aside from video, photos, and captions?
That's a great question. Actually, to be honest, like that's an area for opportunity improvement for us. We actually, when we had FitLife, we did have a blog that was kind of top of funnel that would drive sales to Organifi. And it was really important back in the FitLife days. We haven't done as much written content because we have been really focused on video as such a strong suit of ours, but we are kind of revamping, looking at our content strategy as it relates to written content. Also looking next year to do like possibly create our own podcast, and it's a little saturated, so still kind of evaluating that, but creating a bit more of like a media arm within Organifi to go beyond just the videos that we're running.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and the fact that you bring up the idea of creating your own podcast is intriguing because, as you said, there are so many people getting into it, and I guess the question is, are we at a saturation point, or is it still a highly undeveloped channel? With many potential new entrants.
Yeah,
and I think that has yet to be determined.
Yeah, it's still kind of in discussion, and the biggest question we're trying to answer as a team is what's kind of unique about our podcast and what we would be bringing to the market that doesn't already exist. So still to be discussed. We talked about it earlier this year and obviously haven't moved on it. So we'll see if we catch that wave.
All right, we have more questions coming through here, so I'll get to them. Quick one here. Do you sell on Amazon?
Yes. Yeah,
Wow.
so we actually had Amazon pretty early on. We've always had an agency that's managing it for us. We do manage in-house with the agency, so they run all of the ads within the Amazon environment. It's about like 20% or so of our revenue, so the majority of our e-commerce revenue is direct through our own website.
I see. So do you find that is there an advantage, right, to having more direct business versus through Amazon when you're growing a D2C business in terms of, customer data or the ability to, just build a community?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you own more of the data. You don't have as much the contact information for Amazon customers. There's a lot of restrictions there on what you can and cannot kind of market to them. So we've always been very direct response focused. So all of our ads that we do run are always to our website. Obviously, from like a margin perspective, it makes more sense for us as well. So Amazon's really been a bit more of like a bucket that kind of catches, like obviously you have to be aware of consumer behavior, and some people are always going to favor going over to Amazon and purchasing, so we're aware of that, but we do see a lift in certain products when we're running like a lot of volume through some of our advertising. So we also do run some search ads. It's just much smaller compared to the lift that we see from our marketing spend.
Got it. So I think that we have a lot of different, I think, people on who sell different types of products, everything from consumables to skincare and things like that. And one question that just came through is specifically, do you think that direct to consumer is the right way to target a certain like specific group? And specifically this question is specifically asking about Black consumers with a natural skincare product as an example. Yeah. And how do you feel about that ability?
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on the product and your margins, that can kind of factor into obviously what you can spend to acquire customers on D2C. Like with our product, we obviously have a long shelf life. We have about a 2-year shelf life. So it's been great for us to be able to like order product and sell as we go. With skincare, I would assume it's the same. And I think it's just understanding who your end consumer is and kind of where they live. I mean, obviously in D2C, you have the ability to reach people all over the place. So I think it's always generally makes sense outside of what the product is. Obviously there's challenges when people are shipping products that are glass or shipping products that need to be refrigerated or frozen. So with skincare, I would imagine you don't have any of those challenges. So I
Right.
definitely
And
look for.
something that you and I spoke about earlier is, developing a product with the intent of selling it online versus how a lot of us go about developing, which is, we think about retail margins. We don't really consider, shipping and packaging and all these things that would go into building a D2C business with our
Yeah.
products.
Yeah, and we do have great margins in our products, and then we have looked at like how do we create a better consumer, like customer experience and consumer experience, but also how do you like reduce some of those costs? So even with ours, it's in a canister, like do we want to go to bags? And then always trying to make the most eco-conscious decisions. It's like, is there a good bag that has shelf life that we can also ship our products in? Reusable canisters, like all of that. So there's definitely considerations that you have to think through. And obviously we're now figuring out the retail space. It's going to be going the other direction of, can our current product translate over into retail, and do we need to shift the packaging?
Right. Absolutely. That's exactly how we should all be thinking about it. But
Yeah.
is there a different consumer in store versus online? And this question is asking how you differentiate your marketing approach. And I know that you guys don't have as much in store, so maybe you could speak to, future plans versus current, but would love you to share any thoughts you have there.
Yeah, honestly, still understanding the consumer based upon like retailer and in-store versus online. And even when when the biggest conversations we have is around like which consumers you reach through which like marketing channels. So obviously the scalable digital channels that have a lot of users are going to have a wide variety of types of users. What we always found, and when we were running ads in the early days, is like Facebook does have kind of an older female audience that tends to purchase off of ads, and they tend to purchase more, possibly due to more disposable income, more likely to buy off of Facebook ad. Whereas when you're looking more like millennial, even Gen Z, like influencers on Instagram or now into TikTok world, like they're possibly more apt to buy through those marketing channels, and possibly like a lower AOV, different product, right? So we're always looking at who are we wanting to reach and then through which channels. That doesn't really address the in-store question because I'm still figuring that one out. But I have gotten some intel just in like researching some of the retailers and who's buying in store and who's buying more online, because they do have different customers for in-store and even their e-commerce sites.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And more, right, you'll find that a lot of customers who normally would go in store are now shopping on the retailer website, up to 25% of consumption now. So, depending on what category you're in, it can really impact how you go to market with the retailers and how you actually go about doing your marketing.
Yeah, we were just at those combos today around what's the future look like too, with all of the consumer behavior changes, and which ones will maintain and which might go back to the way they were before. So,
yes, yeah, and just as an example of finding your customers online, at Once Upon a Farm, a lot of our customers are moms with young babies, and we found that some of our most effective ads were when we timed them between 3 to 5 a.m. because moms would be up feeding their kids, and sometimes you just have to be where the customers are, and it takes a while to test a lot of different factors before you can really figure that out. Another great question here. So Matt Clifford asks, what paid media channel is the most productive as it relates to cost of customer acquisition? Would it be Facebook, Instagram, podcast, YouTube, Pinterest? Something else we don't know about?
Yeah, I would say Facebook and Instagram, the behemoth. So when you look at cost of acquisition, I always factor in kind of like what's the CPA or cost of acquisition and what's scalable too. So we obviously are like always looking through like a growth mindset of growing quickly. So obviously the digital channels like a Facebook, YouTube, like overnight you could go from spending $1,000 a day to like $30,000 a day if a creative takes off. With affiliates and some of our influencers, we have people that are just on a commission-based deal. So really the cost of acquisition working with an affiliate partner of ours might be way less than like a digital channel. However, the ability to scale that is a little more challenging than running like Facebook ads.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm personally very interested in this, affiliate program and how it's been very successful for you. So I'm going to throw in a question of mine here,
All
and
right.
that is, you know, uh, like, what are your criteria for affiliates, and how do you manage them and make sure that, they're actually producing the kind of results that, you would like to see? What kind of incentives, work the best that you've seen, and what kinds of things have you tested?
Yeah. Whew, we've had quite the evolution that we're still evolving. So back in the day when we first started, we were working on this platform called ClickBank, which traditionally was more of a digital products platform. We were actually one of the first physical products ever to list on there. With that being said, we didn't maybe have the best oversight of some of the people we were working with. So there's been a bit of cleanup, over the years. And in that world, kind of the more internet marketing, digital products world, they're kind of accustomed to getting higher commission percentages. So we were definitely paying kind of higher commissions, a little bit more, little lack of control, I would say, in some of the messaging over there. So we were having to like really stay on top of like who's saying what's the refund rate, like keeping track of that. As we've evolved and tried to create like future programs, we have a wide variety, but we do think through like who's the end consumer, and then who do they trust essentially when we're picking affiliates or like influencer partners. And then we're typically paying in the realm of like 10 to 30% in commission with those partners.
So does it depend on the individual affiliate, or does it depend on the network?
Yeah, so we always like to do commission-based deals versus sponsored deals when possible. So I think in this world where I think influencers are becoming more and more accustomed to receiving sponsorships, we do pay a bit higher commission percentage at times to kind of offset, what they think they would get for like a sponsorship. So sometimes if they have like a bigger following, or if they're running like email traffic, we might pay them a bit more. Kind of more of our ambassador program, like more micro influencers, is a lower commission. So I hope that answers your question. Kind of varies.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, do you guys separate, the way you view influencers versus affiliates in that case, or do you sort of put them in the same bucket?
I mean, the way I think about influencers is such like a broad term. Like really a podcast sponsored partner could be an influencer as far as they're influential. So we look at them more on kind of like their size and then how they're compensated. So as far as affiliate, I think of it more as like a commission-based deal, and then sponsors. So sometimes we'll specify like social media, like influencer, something running on social media, micro influencer, and then affiliates. And we'll usually specify their channel, because we do have some affiliates that are specifically focused on email and others that are social focused.
I see. So do you keep track on, for instance, your spend on paid media affiliate versus influencer, and what would you say that percentage is?
I honestly don't know offhand, because we have we look at them by program, like who's managing the program, so I have to like combine them all together. We used to be very heavy because we were doing so much volume through ClickBank, and that's kind of reducing over time as we're creating these new programs. But I would definitely say, of our larger affiliate partners, out of all influencers and affiliates combined, it's probably like 70+% of that bucket, not including podcasts, of just the influencer affiliate world. I mean, paid media overall, we're definitely spending way more on digital hires.
Got it. So 70% of what exactly?
So I was gonna say, of like, if you combine the sponsorships and affiliate, that whole world, then it's probably 70% of that is actually affiliate commission based versus like 30% sponsored.
I see. Okay. So a lot. So right now more affiliate, but it's growing in the influencer side. Do you guys try to measure? I know it's really, really difficult to do this, but do you attempt to measure ROI with your influencers, or do you just sort of view it as brand building?
Yeah, so we've always been so like metrics performance driven, which I'm actually still want to remain that way, but also trying to expand beyond that. We have always looked at everything based upon sales, like number of sales and revenue, looking at CPA, but also ROAS. So as we go, I think more into retail, we'll probably be doing some sponsorships and some more on like brand type metrics, like impressions, but we've always focused a lot on just the sales that are driven. And we do use like coupon code tracking or link click tracking for attribution. Okay. So coupon codes can get a little out of control, so we've had to really monitor that, but that's how we track back to the sale.
Somebody asked a great question. What is ROAS?
Oh, return on ad spend. So, and I think there's different ways you can calculate it. I mean, very high level, I think the way I think about spend is, obviously you have your acquisition, retention side, but in order for us to be profitable as a business, I look at a marketing efficiency, which is the marketing spend compared to the gross revenue. And then I'm also looking at channel-based, you can look at ROAS, which is your spend compared to your revenue. If it's an acquisition-based channel, we might focus more in like a 1 to 2 range. With overall, you would want your ROAS to be around 3 in our business for it to end up being profitable. Obviously, there's a lot of more detail with margins and everything to factor in, but it's just return on ad spend. So you're just comparing spend to your revenue. And we just look at it as like a 1x would be like a 1-to-1, 3x would be 3 times the revenue to spend.
That makes a lot of sense. And in terms of the affiliate links that you share with influencers, do you find that they respond well to affiliate links?
It depends on the channel. So email, we use links, and that's, I think, pretty normal. Mm-hmm. For Instagram, like we do work with people that do story swipe ups. So we do use links there. We give them coupon codes as well. So it's not with social media influencers are usually coupon code based.
Usually
also.
Coupon codes. Okay. And they don't have a problem with that.
With coupon?
Yeah.
No, I mean, they usually, from my experience, they usually prefer to have a coupon code because they know kind of like the user behavior or like the end consumer is to like see the coupon code and remember it when they go and check out.
Instead of an affiliate link. I see. Got it.
Yeah. And one note that I got to that I passed along to my team, we talked to FabFitFun, and they have a really great like influencer program, and they always have their influencers on Instagram stories on the last story slide to type out like, here's my code, here's all this information, screenshot this, and people will actually screenshot it so it saves their phone and go back and redeem it later. Yeah. That
is very smart. I hope some people here will remember that one. That's a good nugget.
Little tidbit.
Yeah. And subscriptions. So do you do subscriptions, and do you have an opinion or philosophy on offering a product via subscription?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great option, assuming that it kind of fits for your product. I think we're revamping ours right now and kind of creating more of we launched it from day one. We had a subscription, but to be honest, is it providing the value that the consumer wants? Possibly not. So we didn't have that great of adjustment capabilities to their subscription from like a back-end portal, especially when we were on ClickBank. So as we shifted over, we were on ClickBank for a while, and we moved to a Shopify storefront, which challenges there with some of the subscription apps. Not beautiful, but
recharge and all that.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Well, Shopify now has their own, I'm out of the details of it, but their own subscription app, which might be in conjunction with them. But I do believe in like subscription, and I think it really starts with understanding your customer and obviously how like their usage patterns and what the value is that they get from subscription. I mean, in our space, I think it's pretty typical to do some type of a discounting program plus added bonuses. So I think we're going to be going out with a tiered kind of discount on our subscription and then giving a lot of added value.
That makes sense. And, you know, in terms of sort of adding value, increasing, you know, lifetime value and repeat purchases, you know, have you attempted any strategies to, or do you attempt strategies to increase repeat purchase and lifetime value of your user base, your consumers?
Yeah, so I think there's like tactical approaches that you can take. What we're kind of going through right now is going back. I think we've not paid enough attention to it so far, like really understanding our customer and why they purchased and why they might not purchase again, understanding the loyal customers and the customers who are not repurchasing so that we can kind of solve for, I think a lot of it for us is just the initial positioning and ensuring that we're delivering upon the promise that we stated up front. So obviously there's different like tactics and different channels you can use to reach people. We do like a lot of email. We do a lot of like upselling, cross-selling from like a product perspective. What's nice with D2C is you can just create a small run of a product and test it. So we do, right now, we're actually in the midst of launching a new product to a really small segment of customers. So it's another way just to kind of extend, I guess, the lifetime value of the customer and test it. So yeah, I think there's obviously the tactics, and then I would just say like really understand your customer and why they're buying.
And can you just tell me, when it comes to your success in direct to consumer, you mentioned earlier that you're trying to head into retail now. And what's the main driver here, that's really compelling you guys to want to head into retail and not just stick to D2C if it's already been working very well for you? And the second part of this question is, if you were to launch Organifi today, would you continue to stick to a D2C strategy for a considerable amount of time before entering retail, just as you guys did 5 years ago?
Yeah, two great questions. So why retail? I mean, what part of our mission is to ensure that our products are convenient and accessible to all consumers. So when we look at it through that lens, we do want to have our products placed where customers ultimately want to buy. So it's a potential convenience play in certain retailers. And then also, just kind of watching what's happening with consumer behavior, where people still are shopping in retail. They're doing a lot of like in-store pickups, things like that, ensuring that our products are based there. And then also from a brand perspective, being on shelf obviously adds a lot of value. We talked to my Amazon guy. I'd be curious from these retail heavy brands here, but he said that a lot of the brands he's looked at see about like a 20% lift too on their Amazon when they're in retail. So it's kind of just looking at a more omnichannel like strategy. And I still think there's value for us in retail when strategically placed, and not, obviously it could take a bit away from our direct consumer business. We're not letting down on that side of things. So I think that there's a nice interplay, I think, between the two.
Okay, and part two?
Part two was, how would I launch the brand today differently? So a couple of points. So I think I mentioned to you when we were chatting beforehand that when we launched Organifi Green Juice, we weren't really setting out at that moment to like create this brand. So there's been a lot of learning throughout the process of like, who is our customer? What's the next product we're going to create? And kind of going back and creating the foundation. So I think coming in with a whole new brand, we have a much better understanding of the customer that we're speaking to and what our product kind of expansion strategy is going to be. From a channel perspective, I would not go on, I would not use the unbounce in the order forms we were using. The order forms we were on was a nightmare. It was owned by like ClickBank, so we couldn't put pixels and stuff on there, made paid media really challenging. But I would definitely go out with Facebook, Instagram, affiliates, podcast right now. Like we think we'll probably double our podcast spend next year. So I think there's still a lot of, with that growing, a lot of opportunity. I think what else? I'd still go out heavy video, like Drew on camera all day.
Can't argue with that. Yep. I've seen the commercials myself. They're very good, very compelling.
Yeah, I think probably invest a bit more, maybe a bit more in creative a bit earlier. Mm-hmm. Leveling up our creative, because I think that's such a critical piece on digital these days.
Got it. So it sounds to me like you would still choose the same route though, same channel, just different maybe approach. Yeah, some of different technology. Mm-hmm. Probably invest in like some of our data setup a little bit earlier. A little more investment in creative, but pretty close. So I have another retail related question, which is, how do you leverage your massive e-com success into a retail selling story? Yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment. So, it's interesting because I've talked to a lot of the brands at Naturally who are heavy retail, and I know the challenges, even trying to build up an email list or
access, like maybe find influencers or be
Can
able
you
to.
tell us how big is your email list? Just could you tell us
Oh
roughly?
gosh, we look at it in segments so much now. I think we're around like 70, over like 70,000 actives. So we're in the tens of thousands. Yeah. So one thing I started doing, and I'll preface with that we're still really early in retail. So what I've started doing is getting lists of the retailers that we're going into. I do a 5-mile radius around each location, and I can match that up to our customer database. So I can find all our customers within 5 miles. And what we're looking at is potentially offering them incentives to go in store, but definitely we just did our first email blast recently for one of the retailers. Social activation, we do have a collective program, which is ambassadors nationwide. So activating our influencers ambassadors and potentially some paid. So I'm actually kind of building that out right now as far as what our potential offerings are, and also deciding who we activate that for and trying to find the right balance.
That's great. And what tool do you use to geofence?
We don't use a tool for geofencing. We work with a third-party data company, which we're actually shifting in-house right now. Okay. So we're just merging. It's just a back-end data kind of merge where we look at their address data to
just by zip code, whatever, or address, yeah. And you just sort of ping it on the map.
Just merge together, 5 miles.
Got it. All right. So let's see. There is somebody else here asking questions. We have. If you were launching Organifi today with $10,000, oh boy, impossible.
I know.
How would you allocate budget for each channel?
Oh gosh, and honestly,
maybe if you do it by percentage.
I know. Honestly, I'd probably put most of it towards Facebook, Instagram.
Oh, 10K just for marketing, right?
Yeah, 10K total. I mean, when you're looking at testing budget on Instagram or Facebook, Instagram, like you're looking at a minimum like a 250, 500 a day. So 10K, I'm like doing the math on this. Like you could probably get a good month of testing kind of out of 10K. I feel like that's the more scalable approach to take. Like it depends on if you're going for speed and scale too. You could take that 10K and start building out like a affiliate influencer program as well.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Or manpower.
All right. Good. Well, I think that we are out of questions here, and we can, I think, end it with just Amy. If you have any advice that you would like to share before we close out here, something that you feel could be helpful to anyone looking to grow a D2C brand online. Obviously you've given a lot of advice already, but if there's anything that we haven't touched, would love to get your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean,
and if people wanted to reach out to you, would they be able to reach out to you?
Absolutely. So hopefully everyone here is in the Slack channel, which is probably the best way to reach me. Also my emails. Well, maybe I shouldn't give it publicly. Amy at Organifi. Don't bombard me too much. But yeah, Slack or email works for me. And then I was going to say, go ahead.
If you are a member of Naturally San Diego, you should have received an invite to our Slack channel, and you should be able to join there. If you have not, you can always reach out to me as well, Ari at naturallysandiego.org, and I'll make sure to hook you up.
For sure.
Right, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I was going to say, I have this one article that I also share in the Slack called D2C Metrics Explained, which was just a really well-written article for anyone who might be a little bit newer or anyone who already runs D2C. It's a great refresher. So I'm happy to share that over. And yeah, drop any questions in Slack. Always happy to chat.
That's fantastic. Amy, it's been such a delight for myself, for everyone here. Thank you so much. We are going to be posting this video on YouTube for everyone who needs to see some of her responses again. I know I will check it out. We didn't get to thanking our silver sponsors when I was thanking our sponsors. So please let me take a moment here to say thank you to Perfect Snacks, Stage One Financial, Kashi, Marcia McLennan, Purely Righteous Brands, Red Door Interactive, Chase Bank, and Cambridge companies. Again, thank you all, and to all our community sponsors. We couldn't do this without you. Also, you should have received an email with a save the date. We will be sending out our official invite on Friday. This is going to be an incredible virtual event. It's going to be a virtual beer tasting with the head brewer of Ballast Point. If you register and are one of the first, I believe, 50 to 75 people, we still have to decide on the final number to register, you will receive a 6-pack of craft beer from Ballast Point, along with a special gift from our sponsors. So please look out for that invite coming to your email on Friday. Once again, thanks everyone. If you need to get in touch, get involved, as I said, please reach out to me. My name is Ari. You can reach out at ari@naturallysandiego.org. You can also follow us on all the social media channels. We're pretty much everywhere. This video will be posted, as I said, on our YouTube channel. If you have not signed up for a membership, we encourage you to do so. We will continue having these members-only events. To sign up for a membership, you can simply go to naturallysandiego.org. And thank you all so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day and great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.